Welcome to the Infrastructure Podcast. My name is Anthony Oliver, and in today's episode, we are diving into one of the most pressing and controversial sectors in UK infrastructure. That's water. Following years of public outrage over pollution, poor service and rising bills, the water industry in England and Wales now faces a once-in-a-generation reckoning. That reckoning arrived this month with the publication of the final report from the Independent Water Commission, chaired by Sir Jon Cunliffe, backed by over 50,000 responses and extensive consultation. The report sets out 88 recommendations to overhaul the way water is regulated, governed and delivered. It proposes sweeping reforms, replacing Ofwat with a new integrated water regulator, creating regional water planning authorities, mandating compulsory water metering and embedding a new public benefit duty into water company licences. No one comes out of this review smelling of roses, not government, not the regulators, not the water companies. As Sir Jon puts it, this sector requires fundamental reform on all sides. But meanwhile, of course, Ofwat's PR24 price review landed with a heavy thud at the back end of last year, demanding a 21% uplift in investment over AMP8, challenging companies with tough efficiency expectations. The sector faces the daunting task of transforming itself while remaining affordable, investable, and of course, trusted by the public. To unpack the Commission's findings and explore the future direction of the sector, I'm joined today by Blair Mitchell, Managing Director for Water at WSP. Blair has spent 3 decades working across all sides of the water sector as a client, as a supplier, and advising on everything from resilience and regulation to long-term asset strategy. So I'm hoping he will be able to put some context to what is clearly a landmark moment for everyone involved in the water sector. So let's find out. Blair, welcome to the Infrastructure Podcast.
Thank you. Great to be here and looking forward to the conversation.
Well, let's get stuck right into it. The Commission calls for a credible reset of the water sector in England and Wales. And I quoted Sir Jon Cunliffe, who said this sector requires a fundamental reform on all sides. I mean, from your perspective, Blair, what would a successful reset really look like?
So, as you've said, I've worked in the water sector for over 3 decades now. You've made me feel old. So, I feel really passionate, I feel really loyal, protective of, I guess, the water sector. From my perspective, I love working in water, and I guess water touches every part of life, doesn't it? So, I understand there is a reset required. I guess what would success look like for me? I think it would be restoring public faith and trust in the water sector. It has taken quite a bashing and has done so for quite a while now. So, getting to a stage where, it does have the trust and faith of the public.
Well, I mentioned, and as you say there, the ongoing public anger that's levelled at the industry. Mm-hmm. Do you agree with Sir Jon that, a lack of a consistent long-term systems-based strategy is at the heart of many of the sector's challenges or the sector's loss of public trust?
Yeah. I think, and I'm sure we'll touch on it quite a few times through the conversation, the sort of 5-year cycle is, it's a boom and bust type cycle. It's too short term. It does, encourage a reactive approach. So, I think that a longer term strategy is much needed to break this 5-year cycle. Yeah.
So from your perspective, this report and this review and these recommendations, they're a good thing?
For sure. I think it's long been needed. There's a lot in it. 88 recommendations. It'll be interesting to see what the government does now in terms of the consultation and decide. I know they've decided already on the 5, the biggest of which is the one regulator, I guess.
Well, that is the most eye-catching recommendation from the report. It's the call for an integrated regulator bringing together Ofwat, the Drinking Water Inspectorate, and the water environment functions of the Environment Agency and Natural England. It is a bold move, Blair. Yeah. What would success look like for such a body in practical terms?
Yeah. It is a bold move. It won't be easy, I guess, to manage that transition, as well as keep momentum going as well. So going to be really interesting just to see how that, works out in terms of what the transition plan is. A single regulator, a single voice, doing away with duplication is definitely a big step forward. Yeah.
But there's a lot of moving parts in there, as you say. How long would that take, do you think?
it'll be interesting to see the views on that. I think that there has absolutely got to be a focus on delivering the current 5-year cycle. So I guess is there going to be a parallel approach here of focus on delivering the 5-year cycle whilst developing the new regulator? Sounds like it's going to be a big organisation. How do you make that effective?
Yeah, because of course Ofwat's latest price review PR24, that's out there. It's to be delivered on, and it sparked quite a lot of criticism around affordability, investor confidence, and delivery expectations. I mean, what's your take? Is this price review? Is it a step forward in terms of focusing water companies on their customers and giving them the money needed to deliver those asset upgrades?
I believe it is. I think that there is. You can see that there has been a continual improvement of a focus towards customers. The step up investment is required. I guess from my perspective, I do wonder how much the public actually appreciates the value of water. I think there can be a thinking that water is free and we shouldn't need to pay for it, and it just appears. And I think there's an education piece around that.
Well,
for sure.
People say it's too expensive, but I would argue that quite a lot of people don't actually know how much they pay.
Yeah, exactly. Not many do, and I'm sure it's less than some of the other essential services that are paid for. Energy, power, for example. So there's definitely something around that in terms of the education.
But I think the point from the review was that, as I said, no one comes out looking good, but you have got a huge amount of onus on those water companies to deliver. Does PR24 give them enough flexibility to support that long-term investment resilience now?
I think it's a step improvement, I think for sure, and I think the step up in investment is positive, but it does bring with it challenges.
Yeah.
There is a lot of talk in the industry around resources. And will we be able to, as a sector, resource that step up in investment? That won't be easy. And I guess what we're seeing at the moment is that all of the water companies are working hard to start to mobilise their 5-year plans. Yeah. And going back to the sort of boom and bust approach of it takes them a while to get mobilised, they're then going through a period of implementation. And then towards the end, it's have they got enough funding to deliver what's already in motion? Do they need to slow down? As well as then thinking about developing their next 5-year plan. So, as a boom and bust, as I've said.
Interesting challenges, but I must, at this point, highlight the fact that you're clearly Scottish. You live in Scotland. You're based in Glasgow. The Commission, of course, is focused on water in England and Wales. Your whole career, well, certainly the early part of your career, was spent 2 decades at Scottish Water. And you've been based in an industry which, of course, has had a public ownership model compared to England's privatised model and the not-for-profit ownership model in Wales. So give us what for you then, from your experience, what are the standout differences in effectiveness, investment potential and public trust when it comes to those different ownership models between England, Scotland and Wales?
I loved the early parts of my career, and Scottish Water has went through a significant transition over 20 years. So I guess that gives you a sense of the scale. I joined the water sector as an apprentice when there was 30 local councils delivering the water and wastewater services, and over that sort of period of 10, 15 years, it was merged into 3 authorities, then into 1. Public ownership, I think what that has absolutely driven is a real strong culture around customers, customers first. Scottish Water now, I think, have got 90+% customer satisfaction. Their vision and purpose is about always delivering for Scotland. So there's customer is at the heart of Scottish Water for sure.
But of course, the Commission specifically doesn't go into it any discussion around changing the ownership structure in England and Wales. Is that a mistake? Is that a missed opportunity?
It's very political, isn't it? And it has been for a long time. I'm not sure on that, actually. I think that there is benefits to the different models. I think that the the changes that have come out in terms of the one regulator is a significant step forward. The longer term strategy, I think that will definitely deliver big improvements. Do we need to look at the model? I'm not so sure about that.
Well, the report calls for a devolved regional planning authorities. I suppose that will help strike, will it help strike a right balance between national strategy and local accountability? Yeah. Because presumably that's at the heart of it.
Yeah, it was something in particular that I was keen to read and understand in the report. I think we need to be very careful about too many strategies. Right. Do we have one national strategy? I think that is the right approach, and maybe the regional planning authorities is more focused on the plan to deliver that strategy, so more an execution plan, and that can hopefully that will enable it to bring in the sort of local regional differences. But one strategy. Yeah.
Is that your experience from Scotland? Because presumably when it was all run by local authorities, you had many strategies. Bring it together in Scotland, you have more of a centralised approach.
Different priorities, very difficult to coordinate. So I think one of the things I would also say in Scotland is that they benefit from a one-to-one relationship, regulator and water company.
Right.
That will be very different in England, I guess. And that brings with it challenges. But one strategy, one set of priorities, and then each of the planning authorities have, I guess, the empowerment to implement.
Yeah. Let's talk a bit more about you or onto this, Blair. I mean, have you spent many years, as I said, working for Scottish Water, but then you moved into consultancy in 2010 with Grontmai, then Mace, Arcadis, and now WSP. How did you first get into water then? What drew you into water?
I guess it was probably from an engineering background, mathematical at school. So I did this, make the decision that engineering was a career path I wanted to explore. Was lucky to join the water sector at that time, and I've just loved it. I think the opportunity to make a real difference, to be involved, and water touches everything. Loved my time developing my career in Scotland. Got to a stage of, do I want to work for the one organisation for all of my working life? And took the opportunity to, I guess, move into consulting and contracting. I think what's been really valuable is actually having that sort of strong client experience and background. Always able to, I guess, think about, what does a client really want, put myself into the client's shoes.
Yeah, because the water sector supply chain, it's complex.
Yeah.
I mean, it's highly dependent on these long-term framework relationships. What does a business like WSP contribute then to the sector's overall efficiency?
So we've just went through a significant procurement period. We work directly with many water companies. We also work for a number of contractors as well to provide design support. We're always striving to work at, a portfolio level, at a strategic level. I think that's where we can bring best value, working closely in partnership. There has been models in the past which really drive, a more tactical project level engagement with the supply chain, and that's not where the most efficient approach is, I guess. Yeah. So,
15 years as a consultant. Was there a turning, or has there been a big turning point in your career that really kind of opened up new directions for you?
Actually, and going back to when Scottish Water was formed, I think that was when I was at the stage in my career where I was looking to move more into management and leadership. There was regular, restructuring going on to drive efficiency. And it gave me the opportunity to then sort of step into more leadership roles. Yeah. I loved that time to, work across the asset life cycle from, asset planning, operations, delivery. Yeah. So, loved that.
Most people I talk to in the water sector, Blair, say that in their spare time they love getting into the water. Is that what you get up to when you're not working?
Yeah. Not so much these days. Out with work, I've got a young family who are all very, very, energetic. So running and basketball is I guess.
All right, so not swimming and kayaking.
My passions more so now. Yeah, but always love to be out and about. As our kids have got older, actually, we, myself and my wife Laura, we always go out for a walk every day when I'm at home, outside and getting fresh air. Yeah.
Well, it's a great place to do that up in Scotland, I must say. So rather envious. It's a place I need to get back to more often. Back to the water sector, though. Infrastructure resilience and asset health feature prominently in the Cunliffe report. Do you think they get the attention and the investment they deserve? And we keep hearing about the fact that climate change is changing the dynamics of the whole water sector. Do we need to elevate the status of resilience and asset health in capital planning and performance?
Yeah. Just interesting you say sort of, I guess, climate change. I think that we are in a period now where there is more extreme weather than ever, and I think that does bring with it complications in thinking that through. From my perspective, I think when I think about that, more about I guess risk management. We really need to understand the risks that exist in the sector, and I guess from that perspective, then in terms of having the right plans in place to ensure that there is a resiliency in place.
Is there a criticism that water companies have been a bit too fixated on being reactive, fixing pipes that are bursting rather than actually planning for prevention and planning for a changing climate?
Yeah. And I think the 5-year planning cycle drives that approach for sure. So it is very much reactive. What can they afford in the short term? Yeah. So are they thinking long term enough? They haven't had the certainty of funding to enable them to do that. So for sure.
Probably most engineers would understand what an effective infrastructure and asset health framework might look like. Is it deliverable without some real fundamental reform of the way that you talked about these 5-year periodic reviews? Do they need to be a lot longer in order to be able to give us the ability to do that?
For sure. So, mentioning Scotland, for example, I've now got this sort of 25-year, 10-year, 5-year sort of approach. It takes time for sure, but it needs to start with that sort of real longer term focus and planning cycle.
Yeah. And I suppose underpinning that is, as you mentioned earlier, this national water strategy. It's something the Commission calls for. How transformative do you think that could really be? Because, a national water strategy it could be sort of considered to be something of a lofty ambition.
I think there's more than enough strategies already out there. Each of the water companies have their own strategies. I think it's about rationalising that down. I think if you look at the core of it, that I think there is, very clearly a smaller number of priorities around that, and a lot of it is focused around coping with the more extreme weather. There's significant flooding events. Water scarcity is a bigger challenge than ever as well. So I guess one extreme to the other.
Because it's interesting when you look at the current planning frameworks in England and Wales, that enable this long-term water resilience investment. The criticism that the UK water sector has failed to build, for instance, any new reservoirs in the last 20 or 30 years, it's not because of lack of trying, surely. It's because it's so difficult to get these kind of major projects actually up and running. What can be done to try to ease that? Because we've got the planning infrastructure bill. Yeah. That's a step in the right direction, but what else?
Yeah. So there has been a stronger focus over the last few years around major projects in the sector, and Ofwat have played their role in establishing a stronger focus around that. And that is one of the areas where there has been it has started to take a longer term approach. You can't deliver major projects within a 5-year period,
No.
So there has been more recognition of that, but that's not enough. There needs it needs to go further than that.
Well, we also come back, in particular in this report, about this the nirvana of the systems approach to infrastructure. And I know you probably talk about it. Yeah. Sir Jon talks about this need for a systems approach. What's stopping this cross-sector coordination between, for instance, water, housing, and agriculture? Is it a government problem, or is it a industry problem? What's going to turn the dial and help Sir Jon deliver his systems approach?
It's it's interesting. I think that when you look at these different sectors, they have different priorities, they have different policy, they have different frameworks.
Yeah.
That's something that I believe that the WSP can have a stronger role in. I think that, and we have seen some evidence of this. We have many clients across different sectors, and we have been taking the opportunity to bring a number of these clients together on a regional basis, just to start some conversations. Flooding might be one that impacts a number of different sectors. So I think there should be more emphasis on, I guess, the sort of supply chain to help with that, because we have got that sort of multi-sector relationships.
Yeah. And are there examples in Scotland, for instance, where the setup of the industry is enabling that to happen more effectively?
I think it is to an extent, but I think in a lot of ways it comes down to funding.
Right.
And are they able to, I guess, agree a framework on how to fund solutions that are going to have benefits for a number of sectors?
Yeah.
That has always been the most difficult challenge, I guess. But yeah, you do see it working in some areas, and particularly in Scotland. Yeah.
Because it's quite intriguing when the government has a target of 1.5 million new homes. Where is is there an emphasis on how you supply the water to those homes, how you supply the drainage to those homes, how you actually make sure that those fundamentals are included? I'm not sure there is for a consultant like WSP, is that message getting across that we need to think about those things?
Yeah, I think we pride ourselves in being a leader in all the sectors we operate in, and I think that there's an onus on us to really bring that together. And as I've said, to be creating the opportunity to bring the different sectors together to discuss and explore how we resolve these challenges.
Would you say there are a short list of best practice earnings then that you bring down from Scotland every time you come down to the London office of WSP?
Yeah. I would like to think so.
What's the number one then?
I think that just that sort of passion for customers, I think is really always thinking about the end customer. What are we doing to deliver for the local communities? Everything we do in WSP is focused on that, and in the water sector. So
there's no question that public trust in the sector is clearly at an all-time low. I mean, what do you think water companies can do, and what can companies like WSP do to help restore that trust?
So I think it's certainly celebrating all the many positives within the sector, and there is so much. We've got so much talent, we've got so much good news stories, and I think we definitely need to be doing more to sort of raise the profile of them to balance out some of the the negative press. I think we want to be, I guess, doing more to encourage, fresh faces to join the sector. It's such an exciting time. There is so many opportunities for people to have career in the water sector, for us to make a difference. I think that's the story that we want to be sharing more.
The problem, of course, though, is that the delivery of fresh water to our taps, the removal of foul water from our loos and our baths is kind of taken for granted, and some would argue it should be. It's almost a human right. The problem is that people only think about water when the water stops coming out of their taps or the sewers overflow. I mean, is that ever going to be a solvable problem?
It's not going to be easy. For sure. I think it is, as you say, I guess it's a culture in a way, that it's taken for granted. Unfairly, I think, because, I see it from the other side, how much investment's required to provide these services. A big challenge.
Yeah, but the Commission does stress this need for public engagement. I mean, do you see that there's a simple way to get local communities more meaningfully involved in the supply of their water and the value of that water?
It's a must do. It's so important to make sure that communities and the public feel engaged in it, and I guess that could be a role for the regional planning authorities. Do they establish sort of local advisory boards with representation? But yeah, absolutely is essential.
And communicating the true cost, perhaps, also of water.
Yeah, for sure. And it's not cheap. So yeah, I think that's key.
Well, we talked about ownership and delivery models. I mean, the Commission talks about restoring investor confidence. Because of course, if we're going to actually get asset investment, renewable investment into the market, it's going to come from the private sector. How do we make this infrastructure more attractive to the kind of long-term, low-risk investors that the Commission talks about?
I think let's not underestimate the one regulator and national strategy. These will make a big difference, I believe, in sort of restoring investor confidence for sure. I think the challenges around regulation and the duplication, I think, is certainly a big part of that for sure. Water should be viewed as very sort of low volatility, essential service. So I think that these two things will make a big difference.
I mean, there's talk about including this public benefit clause in water company appointment licenses. Is that something which is going to make it more attractive?
Yeah, I think it will definitely help. It'll be a significant shift, I guess, in terms of them looking from shareholder value to more customers and communities and the environment.
Yeah,
I guess.
So actually trying to make sure that every bit of investment that goes into the water sector is actually focused on making sure that the public gets a benefit from that. Are there lessons that could be learned from other sectors when it comes to governance and delivery structures? I mean, you work in many sectors for WSP. Where do you learn?
For sure, and I do think that there needs to be a focus around that. There's best practice out there, and I think that we should learn from that. I think Scottish Water's Scotland's a good model of that. I think the rail reform is probably another one that I think is definitely worth looking at. I think that's been viewed very positively. But yeah, there's, I guess, obviously offshore wind as well. It would be another. So there's a few out there that I think that they need to take a little bit of time to, really understand.
All of which are embracing a systems approach and trying to bring all parts of those particular delivery models in place. Bringing innovation, of course, is key, and we keep hearing a lot about we need to be innovative in the way that we deliver these new models. What's exciting you most in terms of opportunities, that innovative approaches?
I think there has been a stronger focus emerging in terms of innovation within the water sector, and I think in some ways Ofwat have facilitated that with their innovation fund. I think that's exciting times. There's a lot going on from a digital and automation perspective. The water sector, I think, has been quite a traditional sector, and I think in a lot of ways the culture has been we're too busy, we need more resources. And I think we need to continue to shift that culture to how do we become more efficient, how can we become more automated.
Because I suppose there are two approaches. You can put pipes in the ground, you can bury concrete, you can build big systems to treat water, or you can use the nature-based approach. Are we going in the right direction for you?
Definitely. I think that, again, there's a culture of we need to build something that I think we need to continue to break. I think in terms of nature-based solutions, it can be more difficult to quantify the benefits. And I think that is something that I think we need to think about in terms of what is the sort of how we do quantify the benefits and around nature-based solutions to encourage more use of that sort of thinking.
Because they are arguably more difficult to maintain, or is that just a myth?
No, I don't. In many ways, no, they shouldn't be. And I think if they're designed in the right way, then I think that there should be actually, efficiencies from that as well. It's something that many sectors are looking at, and I think there is, a a real good opportunity to do more.
So what's stopping more widespread adoption of such nature-based solutions? Is it just lack of knowledge?
I think it's the short-term planning approach. I think it's how easy it is to quantify the benefits. But we're seeing some real good results from many nature-based solutions across the sector. The focus is getting stronger. Yeah.
As an interesting phrase that the Commission uses, it suggests a more constrained discretion for regulators to support innovation. What does that mean to you? And is it achievable?
It's interesting, and I was thinking about that phrase that was used, and I guess my thinking from that is I think there's a suggestion that there's been too much investment focused on innovation.
Right.
Not sure around that. I think that innovation has got a key part to play in terms of the sector becoming more efficient and I guess more dynamic and forward thinking. I think the challenge should be more around making sure that the innovation opportunities are scaled up across the sector, rather than being more on a sort of local level. That's where the big benefits are. There's so many innovations out there, but how do you scale that up to make the bigger difference?
So trying to make sure that rather than just innovations being one-off project solutions, they actually become the norm.
Absolutely, and across the sector.
Well, just looking ahead, Blair, as government absorbs this review, 88 recommendations, I think they've given the go-ahead that they're definitely going to embrace one of them and maybe 4 others. So there's about another 83 to go, whatever. What's your biggest hope for the future of the water sector in England and Wales? I mean, obviously, bearing in mind your experiences in Scotland as well, what's your biggest hope?
I would love to get to a stage where water sector is viewed very positively. That it's trusted and it has public faith, for sure. I also think that I hope that we find a smart way of transitioning to the new regulator, but at the same time continuing to deliver for customers. We cannot allow this to become too big a distraction from essentially, every single day we should be focusing on delivering and improvements for customers.
Well, whether it's WSP or whether it's any other consultants or contractors, we're not short of expertise. Do you think that expertise is going to play a big enough role in this transition?
We need to find a way. It's not easy, and I think that we definitely want to have a louder voice from a WSP perspective. We feel that we've got so much value to add around that at a sort of a national level. It's not easy. I think leadership, across the sector is so important to this as well. Will be interesting to see how the new regulator is formed and, the leadership around that. I think that'll be so important.
I was going to ask you about fears, but that's far too negative a finish to the podcast. But what excites you about the future going as we look forward?
So many opportunities to, improve the sector, to improve providing of water and, the environment. It's such an exciting time for us, and I think it's a great sector to work in.
Great. Well, Blair, thanks for having a chat about it today. It's really challenging times, really, as you say, exciting times for the water sector, and really interesting moment for the whole industry to really embrace this set of recommendations and try to turn them into real change. So thanks very much for joining me and sharing your thoughts today.
Thank you.
Absolute pleasure to see you, but sadly that's all we've got time for today on the podcast, but there's more in the pipeline as we continue to probe the big issues facing the sector. If you haven't done so already, do check out the Infrastructure Podcast website, www.infrastructure-podcast.com, where you'll find background information and all the latest podcasts to listen to and share with your colleagues. So thanks for joining us. Thanks again to Blair for joining me today. I look forward to seeing you again very soon.